So recently I ran a poll on my social media that basically said, what game should I do next? And I provided a list and people voted on it. They were all point and clicks that people hadn't really heard of, but people still voted, so whatever.
As it turned out, the most popular choice by far was Call of Cthulhu Shadow of the Comet, so that's what I'm going to be reviewing. And also last Halloween, I kinda didn't do a horror point and click, so hey, I felt like doing one now.
When I saw that I was going to be reviewing a Lovecraft game, I thought, what a great pick, man.
For those who aren't aware, H.P. Lovecraft was the horror writer behind the whole Cthulhu mythos. His brand of cosmic horror has been hugely influential throughout the years, and you'd be hard-pressed to have not watched, played, or read something influenced by his work to some degree. Video games especially have seen plenty of Lovecraftian tributes within them. Games like Bloodborne, Amnesia, and Eternal Darkness all owe a lot of their stylistic choices to that one strange man and his writings. That being said, games that take place directly in the Cthulhu mythos are a little bit harder to come by. Probably the most famous example of this is Headfirst's Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth, a survival horror game based on Lovecraft's Shadow over Innsmouth. But there are also two point-and-click adventures that bear the Call of Cthulhu title, and these are Shadow of the Comet and Prisoner of Ice, the former of which is what we're covering today. Shadow of the Comet was released by Infogrames in 1993 and uses elements from two Lovecraft works, namely The Dunrick Horror and Shadow over Innsmouth. And in the game you play as a photographer called John Parker.
I'm trying to think of a Spider-Man joke, but it's just not coming to me right now.
The game begins by showing the story of a man named Boleskine and how he went insane. In some ways it's kinda creepy and ominous, but at the same time you also have things like this.
I think he would have liked to see his works donated to the British Museum.
What could he be looking at? Judging from his expression, it's probably fan art from that side of the Undertale fandom. And there's also moments like this. Honestly, I don't really blame that guy for leaving. I'd be out of there in a second if I saw some guy break off part of a door with his face.
Doctor, come back. I must show you this.
What can I say? I just wanted some privacy. Bit of asylum action, if you know what I mean.
The intro also shows us some shots of a comet going past various things, and at one point this guy gets totally lit, bro. Although trust me, this is not the way you want to get lit. He really misunderstood the concept. So then we see an office, I guess? Apparently it's the Office of British Scientific News.
Tell me, 76 years after the Boleskine business, you really think...
Do I really think what? What? Do I really think what? Okay, you're just gonna have a cigar? Alright, yeah, okay, that's fine.
Nah, take your time, dude. Sentences can be really difficult to come up with. I get that.
The intro tells us one thing about the game right off the bat here, that it's full to the brim with awkward pauses. Like every single line of dialogue has an uncomfortable silence afterwards if you don't skip it. Basically, as Parker, you've been sent to snap some pics of Halley's Comet, and find out whether the crazy guy at the beginning of the game is actually onto something. The town you're sent to is a place called Innsmouth, which is a completely not clever variation on the classic Lovecraftian town Innsmouth. Basically, if a town has a similar name to that, you don't want to be there. In Shadow over Innsmouth, Lovecraft writes about something called the Innsmouth look, which basically indicates that the people of Innsmouth have a slight fishiness to their appearance. So will there be an Innsmouth look? I don't know, but there is this guy. He could probably be this fish. Essentially, you're left to your own devices at the town, but to start with, you're given a few menial tasks. For example, buying photography equipment because the company you work for couldn't send you what you needed. The other goal is to look at whether or not a 12-year-old written about in Boleskine's journals is alive after 76 years. And given that this game is set in 1910, I don't actually hold high hopes for this guy.
If the child was 12 years of age in 1834, he's 88 today. There's a chance he's still alive.
Well, you can't fault the guy's optimism, can you?
So after this, I run into these two guys at a fence. I mean, I talked to one of them once and he told me to back off.
Alright, just give me a second, I'll get going.
Oh. Oh no. Oh, that's not a must, is it?
Poor Parker, so young, and already in the next world.
This is like probably the most off-guard an adventure game death has ever caught me. I didn't even realize I was in danger. And to top it all off, the subtitles in the game over screen call the main character Carter instead of Parker. I'm amazed. I think this death can mostly be owed to the game's weird controls. Like, it's a point and click, but not a traditional one by any means. You pick up objects on a line of sight basis, like an actual visible line of sight. And while you can use the mouse in this game, it's actually very awkward to use. Would you actually believe that the arrow keys are the more convenient option here? Also, quite often objects will just interact automatically. And that's frustrating to me as a point and click player because it often managed to work out the solution only to be thrown off by the fact that clicking the object does nothing. You have to be stood in the correct place to properly do certain actions, and it's just annoying. Not to mention it causes things to happen automatically sometimes, like that death from earlier.
No one can say I didn't warn him.
Anyway, this game really does have some interesting characters. For instance, I really love Mr. Jug the Librarian. He's just a guy who loves books. I mean, a bit too much, but it's great.
Books are my passion, Mr. Parker. My most precious companions. Silent, discreet, sometimes filled with mystery.
I mean, seriously though, I love him. I've never seen a character take so much joy in anything.
Indeed, to be frank, I can't get our last conversation off my mind.
Oh, I'll bet you can't, you handsome librarian, you.
So, like, where's the Parker/Jug fanfiction at? I just need it for reasons.
The daughter of the pharmacist also cracks me up because she basically flirts with Parker, but her dad shuts her down.
Come whenever you want, Mr. Parker.
Hold on to your horses, Mary.
There's also this total Bible basher lady who says she'll never give up her Bible, but then you entice her with a shiny object and she gives it up.
I'm pretty sure Jesus would be pretty displeased about that.
I mean, how could you disappoint his face? I mean, look at him. Just smile. Look at the lightsaber.
And I think Dr. Cobble deserves an honorary mention too for this great line.
Holy cow, no.
But I digress, because we're here for weird happenings, right? I mean, the only weird thing that's happened so far is this dog. So you find out that the 12-year-old that Boleskine wrote about is alive 76 years later and living in a dirty fish shack. I mean, given the average life expectancy of someone in 1910, this is a little bit out there.
Who knew that the key to healthy life was old fish?
So you basically find out from this old guy that you need to access a cross in the woods somewhere, but being a dirty foreigner, we need a guide. The first guy we approach is a guy called Nathan Tyler, who is literally Jack Nicholson. Like, literally Jack Nicholson. Literally. The bad news is his prices are too steep. The good news is that we find another guide getting beaten up outside the bar.
Isn't life just full of surprises?
The guy even offers to carry a tripod, which is pretty nice of him except for the fact that he kinda forgets to give it back to you when you get to your destination. You dick. So how are we supposed to take pictures now? Well, with 3 sticks, naturally.
The game up until this point is really slow, but here is when it begins to heat up.
Basically, you come across this ceremony in the woods, but wait, there's people there that you know. There's Jack Nicholson, and he's with a Native American?
Behold! Look up there! We are being observed.
It looks like the Native American spotted us. Would have been nice if we didn't stand out in the open like a doof.
Poor Parker, so young, and already in the next world.
Here's a pro tip from me. If you come across a weird ceremony at night, just stay away because chances are they'll probably just incinerate you with some kind of magic, and you don't want that.
Well, that's dumb. How do I avoid this then? As it turns out, you have to mash the right arrow key while in this screen to move behind a tree quickly. There is absolutely no indication that you can do this. This is something I just had to look up. The screen just looks like a cutscene, and there's no real way that someone would know to move right. Game design, everybody. Anyway, even if you hide, you're still spotted, but this time you snatch a piece of paper and leg it back to the town just before going to sleep.
I feel you, Parker.
When Parker awakens, he's in his bed being cared for by Dr. Cobble, and it kinda looks like you get turned into some kind of bed centaur. Regardless, Cobble gives you a prescription for heart medication. Yeah, no joke. There is a puzzle in this game where you pick up your heart medication. I mean, all I've really done so far is talk to a bunch of old people and develop heart problems. I mean, I thought I was playing Shadow of the Comet, but it turns out I'm just playing Shadow of the bloody retirement home. I can't wait for the sequel. Apparently there's some epic hip replacement action in that one. After that, you genuinely have a heart attack because one of the photos you took turned out to be horrifying. Just, what even, man?
Because I play video games to simulate heart problems.
In Monkey Island, you get to be a pirate. In King's Quest, you get to be a king. Shadow of the Comet, you get to have heart attacks. On another note, this game looks really weird at times. Like, graphically it's not that bad, but it feels wildly inconsistent. Like, some areas look pretty good, but some just look like a game from the NES. It's such a weird juxtaposition, especially with the rotoscope styles of the close-ups. And also, what's with the sky? It looks like the background of a school photo. But then, shock horror, something terrible happens. We go to visit our librarian friend, but something's wrong. But surely he isn't.
No, not my favourite librarian. How could you? Shadow of the Comet, why?
You know, why is it that whenever I like a character in a horror game, they get killed off? First there was Mike. I'm gonna miss you, Mike. And then there was Trevor. Like, why did it have to be Trevor? And now we've lost Jug. This is an outrage. Librarians are a beautiful race of people. They don't deserve this. You know what? Now I'm in business. Give me monsters. I was here for monsters. All I've received so far is heart attacks and heartbreaks. I demand Lovecraftian beasts. But first, I'm gonna check out this candle. Yeah, that's definitely a candle. So then someone tries to knock down the door. So how do I escape?
Now, let's just hope this thing works. Otherwise... Where am I? Where am I?
I just crash landed next to a dancing bear. This is probably the greatest game ever made. But I still can't seem to find any monsters. Look how antsy Parker's getting. His close-up changed to a really damn sinister one. So where might we find some monsters? Maybe the cemetery. And it looks like that was a good call because this creepy looking place just happens to be underneath it all. And I mean, here is a monster. Well, he's just chilling. Nothing wrong with that guy. I mean, a photograph gives Parker a heart attack, but this guy, he's cool. Can't fault that guy. So this part of the game is basically this massive labyrinth, and why does there always have to be a labyrinth in adventure games? That's just one thing I never got. Like, no one enjoys labyrinths. Just stop with them. But once you get to the end of it, you find this.
Alright, I'm sorry dude, let me just get out of your hell. Just go.
I mean, I'll just take these statues. I hope you don't mind. Alright, I'm going. Jeez.
Well, I'm out. Not talking to that guy. No.
You know, apparently this isn't worthy of a heart attack either. Nope, you ain't getting me alive. Oh, you okay, mate? You look like you could do with some chamomile tea.
I think right here is a good cut-off point for spoilers in this game. I mean, this game, it takes ages to actually get anywhere, but the payoff's just not worth it.
Shadow of the Comet overall has a decent atmosphere, but the story isn't as engaging as I would have wanted. The ending to this game is kind of disappointing to me as well. It's kind of expected of a Lovecraft protagonist to go a little bit insane by the end, but without spoiling too much, the game doesn't actually do that. The entire game comes across really weirdly as well. The entire thing feels experimental in terms of graphics and controls, and it's certainly a unique experience. I just don't think it's that great. The most worthwhile thing in this game is Jug, but we all know what happens there. Grief is hard to accept, but with time we can persevere. When you lose someone, you should celebrate who they were and why they meant so much, because then a person is really cemented in eternity.
Holy cow, no.